Hi guys, welcome back. I know it's been a hot minute since I recorded my last video. So what's been up recently here has been the theaters in Poland reopened for up to 50% of audiences. It meant that we could perform our final premiere of the season, Mayerling, and we don't have to wear masks.
Yay!
We finished all of our shows for this season, but that does not mean that the season is over. We have started working on a premiere for next season. I was also nominated for an award, which is surprising, and also it was very exciting. So let's move on. So this video is going to be talking about Mayerling. As we rehearsed this show, I learned more and more about the story. I was really intrigued, and I think that it's absolutely fascinating enough to make the beginning of this video all about the event that happened, as well as the history of the ballet itself, which I know I can talk on and on about nothing for a long time, so I'll be as fast as I can, and then we'll get into how our stage rehearsals went. Yeah, I'm excited, so let's get into it. Okay, so before we start, I would just like to say that this video does require a trigger warning. So if the subjects written here are triggering to you, I would recommend maybe skipping ahead. Here is the timestamp, and I'll also put it in the description so you can just skip ahead. Okay, so the ballet itself is based on the Mayerling Incident, which is a series of events surrounding the murder-suicide of Crown Prince Rudolf of Austria and his lover, Mary Vetsera. The ballet is choreographed by Sir Kenneth Macmillan with music by Franz Liszt. The original premiere was at the Royal Opera House in 1978 on February 14th. Ironic that it was on February 14th, Valentine's Day, because the story of Mayerling, although romantic, is quite sad. Actually, Sir Kenneth Macmillan ended up dying of a heart attack on the 29th of October 1992, backstage at a revival of Mayerling at Covent Garden. Okay, so here I'm gonna put a list of the characters. This shows not only the characters, but their relationship with each other. But I will also go into that a little bit right now. Let's talk about it. So our main character is Crown Prince Rudolf. He was a troubled man. He had a lot of problems. Apparently he suffered from panic attacks, which he self-medicated with morphine to ease the panic attack, which turned into a morphine addiction. He also had not only a wife, but many lovers. Due to his many affairs, he actually contracted a disease, which he then gave to his wife, rendering her unable to have a child. They only had one child before this happened, which was a daughter. So that also was, of course, a cause of stress in his life. A couple of his notable lovers were Countess Marie Lariche. Although they did have an affair in the past, during the ballet, that spark has somewhat settled, and although she wants to continue having the affair, he's not so into it. Another notable lover of his is Mitzi Casper. She was a high-class prostitute. Apparently, he did propose this murder-suicide pact to her before, and she didn't take it seriously. So that door closed. Enter Mary Vetsera. So Mary Vetsera was a 17-year-old girl at the time. He thought that she was extremely beautiful. They began a very passionate love affair. Another notable character is Empress Elizabeth, who is the mother of Rudolf. He longed for her affection, and she was very cold. She did not want to give it to him. A lot of his problems with women probably stemmed from his relationship with his mother. His father was Emperor Franz Joseph. Both his mother and his father did have lovers, and it was weird times, guys. It was very weird times. Another notable character is actually the character that I got to play. Thank you. Princess Louise of Belgium. So she is Princess Stephanie's sister. She was married to one of Rudolph's closest friends, Prince Philip of Coburg. The final character that I'll be touching on right now is Bratfisch. So he was Rudolph's cab driver and his private entertainer. Okay, but the ballet begins and ends with the funeral. It's Mary's funeral. after the funeral scene, we start right into the ball at the Hofburg Palace. This is a celebration of Rudolph and Princess Stephanie's marriage. Everything is going fine, everyone is waltzing, there's a bunch of people on the stage. After the waltz, Rudolph starts his solo, which kind of shows a few things about his character. Throughout the solo, he's being enticed by Marie Lariche, who is flirting with him from across the room. He attempts to reach out to his mother. He's searching for his mother's approval, attention, affection, and she is just stonewalling him. And so, frustrated, Rudolph begins to flirt with Louise. So Rudolph is flirting with Louise. She's very uncomfortable. Her husband kind of tells her to go along with it, like, oh, you know Rudolph, oh, he's like this. And she can't really say no. He's the prince and it's his party. So it gets quite awkward. She starts flirting back, and of course this angers her sister, who is already very embarrassed. There's a whole drama after this. Everyone exits the ball for the time being. The next part, Rudolph is starting to be pressured by the 4 Hungarian officers to support the separatist cause, because during this time Hungary was separating from Austria. Following this encounter with the soldiers, Marie Lariche enters the room, tries to entice him. The emperor interrupts Rudolph and Marie and reminds him to go back with his wife.
It's your wedding.
That ends the first scene. So the second scene is Empress Elizabeth's chambers. At first we see her with her ladies-in-waiting, then Rudolph enters and they start a pas de deux that basically shows how much he's longing for her approval, her affection, and how she is unable to give him what he wants, unable to reciprocate these feelings. Apparently, Empress Elizabeth had a really hard time in the royal court. She was very unhappy in her life there. She was unhappy in her marriage. She had very mixed feelings towards her life. She had very mixed feelings towards her son, and this frustrates Rudolph even more. He's being denied affection, and this segues into the next scene. So the next scene is the bridal chambers. Rudolph returns to his new wife. He is very frustrated after this encounter with his mother. He is obviously deprived of affection, so he takes out his pain on his new bride. He first brings out a gun and a skull and starts to terrorize her before later assaulting her on their wedding night. So Stephanie had no idea what was coming. She's obviously full of mixed emotions. She loves him. She's terrified of him. It's very painful for her. It's a very emotional pas de deux. Not gonna go any deeper than that. Okay, so we're on to Act 2. The second act begins with Rudolph forcing Stephanie to come with him to a tavern that's pretty well known to be frequented by both prostitutes and their customers. So Stephanie is, of course, very uncomfortable. She leaves soon after and she's escorted out by Bratfish, who knows all about Rudolph and his problems. So Rudolph, he's getting drunk, he's being entertained by his mistress Mitzi Casper. All of his officers are also there. They're having fun, everyone is getting drunk. Soon after the party starts, police come in and break it up. Rudolph and Mitzi hide. So when the police leave, Rudolph and Mitzi come out, and Rudolph then becomes quite disturbed. He proposes his suicide pact to Mitzi, who doesn't really take him seriously, is kind of put off by it, and she leaves soon after. So the next scene, we find ourselves outside of the tavern. This is the first time that Rudolph is really introduced to Mary by Marie Lariche, actually. He is then kind of besotted with her. They leave in a carriage, he leaves, and the following scene is the Vetsera household, where Mary is sitting with her mother, kind of fawning over a photo of Rudolph that she has. Marie Lariche enters, she tells her fortune, and kind of tries to set up Mary with Rudolph. Mary, of course, is totally into it. This was her thing. And Marie Lariche encourages Mary to give a letter to Prince Rudolph. The next scene is Emperor Franz Joseph's birthday celebrations at the Hofburg Palace. It's a very tense atmosphere there. A lot of family members are present. For his birthday, Empress Elizabeth presents Emperor Franz Joseph with a portrait of his mistress. So all in all, it's kind of an awkward situation. Rudolph is disgusted by his parents' behaviors. Both of them are there with their lovers. At this time, he was ill. He had contracted a disease during his many affairs. He was deteriorating mentally and his addiction was becoming quite bad. He also at this time receives the letter from Mary Vetsera. The following scene, Marie Lariche brings Mary into Rudolph's bedchambers, where she pretty much shows him that she is not scared. She's right there with him. She is freaky. She takes his gun and his skull, and she shows him that she's ready to do anything he wants. They build their relationship. You can see that they have a chemistry, and that ends Act 2. Okay, final act, Act 3. So in Act 3 opens with a hunting scene in the snowy countryside. Everyone is dressed in a bunch of furs. The atmosphere is just very tense. And as they're leaving from this hunting party, Prince Rudolph, through either accident or maybe on purpose, some speculate he was actually trying to shoot his father. He shoots and kills a young bystander, a part of the hunting team. The scene changes. Rudolph is in his bedroom. He is in a bad way. He is not sober. Marie Lariche comes in. She tries to console him. His mother walks in, sees the scene that's going on, throws Marie Lariche out of the room. Lariche returns later with Mary, who kind of offers herself as a substitute to the substances he's been using at this time. He then proposes this suicide pact to her, and she agrees. Then the scene changes. So the final scene takes place in the hunting lodge of Mayerling. Rudolph is drinking, Mary arrives, they then are together, it's very passionate, it's very emotionally charged. Afterwards, he takes her to the bed. In the ballet, it's covered. You hear a shot. Then his friends come in, they don't see what's happened. Rudolph tells them to leave, and then he shoots himself. The wall falls down, and it's just madness. Everyone is upset, no one really knows what happened, why did this happen, people are crying, and the scene changes, and we're right back here in the cemetery, where Mary Vetsera is being taken to her grave. The suicide pact was such a scandal that the royal family did cover it up to protect the royal family and the state, they said. Mary was buried in the middle of the night. No one really knew. Rudolph was said to have died by a heart attack, but of course, rumors were still flying and continued to fly. And that is the end of the ballet. So we as a company began rehearsing Mayerling a long time ago. Once the cast went up in December, we were super excited and we began rehearsing from around February, I believe. The first rehearsals were just for soloists due to the rules and restrictions that we had in place in the theater at that time. So when we did start corps de ballet rehearsals, the different casts would be separated into different rooms. Gradually, of course, as the months passed and numbers dropped, rules began lifting. So we slowly got to be in bigger groups. We were able to rehearse and be in a studio without masks on. So not only did we have to work on the steps on the stage, but we also for the first time were seeing each other's faces and expressions during the rehearsals, which was actually really difficult because for so long our faces had been hidden. So due to the scale of this ballet, and also just so I think that we could get used to costumes and sets, and also because it's safer because there's a lot more space, we got onto the stage very quickly with this production. We had about 2.5 weeks of stage time before the show. Another incredible thing about this production that we did here was all of our costumes and sets. I mean, maybe except a couple of costumes that they did make for the soloists, especially here. They were all borrowed from the Royal Ballet, from the Royal Opera House in London, and they were originals from the premiere in 1978. There were 3 casts in our production. Each cast got 2 shows. In the first and third cast, so for 4 shows, I was dancing a woman at the ball and also the pipe lady. But for 2 of the shows, I was lucky enough to dance Princess Louise of Belgium alongside my former classmate Elisabetta Formento, who premiered as Mary Vetsera in that show. It was really difficult for me at first because as someone who has really long limbs and very little control over them, turning is sometimes really hard for me, but I did work really hard on it and I am really pleased with how the results turned out. All the shows were a huge success. Everyone was so pleased to be on stage again. We were so excited to work with such incredible figures in the ballet world, so Carl Burnett and Wayne Eagling, as well as all of the ballet masters here in Warsaw. Everyone really put in an incredible effort and I was so lucky to have gotten such incredible coaching from them as well. It was so fulfilling to share this absolute masterpiece with Polish audiences for the first time. So yeah, I've talked for a good long amount of time right now, got you caught up on what we've been up to. And yeah, if you like this video, remember to like and subscribe. I hate when people say that, but